All right, everybody. Well, welcome back to the P18 podcast. Today we have Mr. David Arrington with us.
Nice to see you.
Mr. Arrington's a proud member of the Social Studies Department and faculty here at Perry High School. Mr. Arrington, thank you for taking some time to be with us today.
Glad to be here.
So I have some questions for you. I'm going to rapid fire them your way.
Okay.
So feel free to give me any and all information on each question that you'd like to, okay?
Sounds good.
So question number one, if you could share a little bit about your journey and how you came to be part of Perry High School.
That's a loaded question. I could ramble for hours, and I know that's exactly what you want me to do, so I'm going to do it. No, not really. I'll just go ahead and start. I started with college, right? When I first got into wanting to get into education, it wasn't even the idea to get into education. It was subconscious.
Okay.
Right? I wanted to be a doctor of all things because I come from a family of teachers, but I always took that history course. And all my professors told me, "You're going to be a teacher," and I said no. And about halfway through that journey, I graduated and changed my major and became a teacher. And it was right at the heart of the housing crash. So everyone was returning to the teacher profession at that point. So my journey started really when teaching and substituting.
Okay.
So I subbed a lot in the Chandler district for quite a while, and then finally landed my first job at a charter school, middle school for a year, at which point I later applied and managed to get a position here at Perry. Part-time at first, actually. I did 3 classes and then subbed the other half of the day for my first year here, and they liked me enough to keep me. That was, I think 14 years now.
Okay.
So
kind of being in both of those areas now as a certified person, someone in charge of a class and a roster versus being a substitute teacher, you've kind of been on both sides of that now when it comes to walking into a classroom cold as a substitute versus, having your daily roster set, right?
Absolutely. It's honestly, it's a very different experience. As a substitute, my hat's off to the subs that are at Perry at any school, because it's you get the best of every student usually on those days, because the parents away, kids shall play, so to speak. And whereas with as a teacher, it's in the classroom all the time, it's a completely different experience. You get to build those relationships. You get to have those connections to where, to this day, I still am in contact with some of my students, even 14 years ago. So
14 years, time flies, doesn't it?
Oh man, yeah.
All right, second question. What does a typical day in your job here at Perry High School look like?
Typical day, honestly, I'm one of those weird teachers. I love early mornings, and so they got me 0 hour.
Okay.
So I got the kids bright and shiny and early, and you'd think it would be my smallest class, but it's my biggest. I got 30 kiddos in there, and they're all wide-eyed and bushy-tailed. So, I start off my day, having to be ready and raring to go. And, when I look at the classroom, I'm one of those teachers where we've all seen Ferris Bueller. We all had that history teacher that was Ferris Bueller. I don't want to be that teacher, right? I don't want to be that monotone Bueller, where are you? And, people just disappear into the ether. I like the relationship. I like the stories. And so I tend to wake up extra early so that way I'm awake to meet them and, be able to participate with that and get them motivated for their day. And so my typical day, in class, yeah, we do lectures. Yeah, we do those assignments, but we also spend a lot of time getting to know each other and making those connections with the past and the present as well, because history is not just dead people, right? And so we're trying to figure out how that relates to each other and relates to us now. And it's really cool to watch them gain those connections. And some of those kids walk out, they start the year, I hate history, and walk out and like, oh, I actually like it, or I like this aspect of it. And even if they don't, they walk out understanding more about themselves and where they've been either way. So
0 hour. What time does 0 hour start?
Bell rings, I think about 6:25.
6:25, 0 hour. That's early.
Y'all should come. It's fine.
All right, next question. What part of your job would people be surprised if they knew about?
Honestly, the one thing that I think they would be the most surprised about is what happens after hours. Right? It was one of the things that surprised me even as a first-year teacher, and as I was coming into it, because you have that vague idea that teachers, either A, they disappear and like superheroes and they get to party it up and have summers off and spring breaks off. It's the best career ever. Some kids think, we sleep here at school, and sometimes I feel that. But I think that's the thing that's the most surprising, is that our job doesn't stop at breaks. Our job doesn't stop at the end of the bell. We either have meetings or, in my case with history, because I'm always asked questions from left field, because as we, kids have questions and want to know more, I'm like, oh, I don't know. And so I'm oftentimes doing research or gradings or going to even conferences to deepen my understanding so I can help the kids better understand the different concepts and different things. And so it's the amount of time that's also spent outside of class, both on our teaching as well as even supporting our students, whether with games and clubs and whatever else as well.
It's always something.
It's always something.
All right, next question deviates a little bit.
Okay.
If you could have dinner, because I know you're a social studies guy, you're a history buff. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, past or present, who would it be and why?
Which?
Okay, like you said, it was just hard, so I'm going to throw a curveball.
Okay.
If I could pick someone, it would probably be one of these group of three, and it would be either Socrates, Plato, or Aristotle, one of the big three philosophers.
Okay.
Mostly because I love, those cerebral. I love sitting down with someone and let's just riff and think about life in the world and what's going on in history and connections. It's probably why I'm a history teacher, so being a fly on the ear and listening to conversations, it's one of the reasons, I think people like the Joe Rogans of the world, so to speak, because they'll just sit there and like, why ask questions and really just kind of dissect something. So that's kind of why I would love to sit down with them, just to see how they think and how they process things and like how they view the world. Because whether we realize it or not, a lot of those questions really shape our society today. And I'm like, okay, well, I'd like to know those roots.
Very nice. All right, back to Perry. What do you wish that more people understood about Perry High School?
There are schools all over Arizona. I mean, there are a dime a dozen at this one. Between charter schools, there's another one popping up all over the place, and public schools in general, and school choice. Like, they're everywhere. But not all of them are like Perry. I've worked at other places, and I come from a family of teachers, from father-in-laws to aunts and cousins and siblings. Like, I have family, we're in schools everywhere, and the stuff that, I hear, I'm like, well, that's not what I know. Like, Perry is a school that's unique in that it lives up to its slogan, which is pride, progress, and purpose. It's one that prides itself in its rigor and its academics and its support and love for each other and its purpose and all those different things. And it's an atmosphere that allows kids to thrive, and not just the kids, but the parents, community, and everyone else. And so, like I said, I wish people understood how lucky they were to have it, because there's some that don't, and it's hard to watch.
Last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
We all have choices about where we can work.
Mm-hmm.
What makes Perry the place for you?
What? This one's both hard and easy. Perry is a place that I don't know unless you force me out, or I don't know that I will leave. I'll probably retire here. I'll probably, as they say, die a Puma, right? You probably have to pull me out of this room, because from the moment I got hired here, it was home. And from the moment I got hired here, I was accepted. I was supported by fellow colleagues, by administration, by family, and by students. I mean, am I allowed to do story time?
Absolutely.
Right?
We love story time.
Story time. Like, I had just gotten hired here, and brand new teacher, technically second year of teaching, I guess. And most of these people don't know me from Adam. And at that point, we had just adopted my 3 little girls. And so I had gone from 1 to 4, and my wife got a surprise announcement that we were pregnant. So we were going 1 to 5 in no time flat. It was a big surprise. And as a first year teacher, as you know, that becomes very stressful, because that's a lot on the plate. And they were all, most of them were still in diapers. Most of them were still really young. And so I show up my first day of work, and next, in my new classroom, is a diaper cake and is gift cards and all this thing. I'm like, these guys don't know me whatsoever, and yet I'm being given to and served in a way that I'm like, it blew me away. And that's not just me. I see it time and again for students and for other colleagues and for staff. We truly care here. And that's
Fantastic. David Arrington, thank you again for taking some time today to be with us on the P18 podcast. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.